Welcome to the second Apl64 customer Teams meeting. In today's session, we will convert an Apl+Win Workspace to Apl64. So the next thing we're going to see, we'll just give an overview of everything. Today, I'm going to demonstrate the conversion Apl+Win to Apl64. I'm going to use a commercial product named Pendius to an Apl64 workspace. This application uses Apl+Win GUI controls and ActiveX support. We'll take a brief tour through the Apl+Win developer version of the Pendius application. Then we'll convert its application-related workspace to Apl64, and we'll see what, if anything, needs to be modified. We'll consider compatibility modifications for existing Apl+Win applications, concentrating on a few deprecated features, and review converting the Apl+Win configuration file. Then we'll demonstrate the Pendius application with the converted Apl64 workspace. Please keep in mind that your experience in the workspace conversion process may be different from this example. You may not have to make any modifications to your workspaces or other application-specific code, or you may. While developing the Apl64 product, we have taken your comments to heart and strove to make the transition to Apl64 as seamless as possible. Okay, so a little background on the Apl+Win application that we're going to view. This example application, Pendius, it's a pension design and illustration system based on a model of certain U.S. Treasury regulations. The application was originally developed for the IBM VM APL environment in the late 1970s. The application's GUI was transitioned to Apl+Win and then to Apl+PC and then to Apl+Win. So it's been around for a while. Virtually no algorithmic or calculation modifications have been necessary throughout the application's history, except to take advantage of additional workspace and variable size. This is also the case when the application was transitioned to Apl64. So we're using a Windows shortcut to start the application. Configure for Apl64, the application workspace, and some application-specific native and APL component files are within an application-specific folder. Additional native and APL component files are within a folder shared by a group of related applications. Okay, so now we're going to start the Apl+Win version of Pendius. And here's the main window. You can see what the workflow is for this application. You can either start with a new client and census, or you can bring in an existing client and census information, and then these buttons will all become available. For this demo, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some previously saved data and do that here. We're going to go through the same steps when after we've converted this workspace to Apl64. Okay, so now everything is available. We'll demonstrate the plan design model. You can see there are several options for the models. There's a lot of data that there are numerous parameters that control the plan design and available regulatory options. Go next. So you can see it's a full Apl+Win GUI. We'll look at the census information. And we can see that there's the individual employee information is captured via a Apl+Win GUI or CSV file input. The client and census information is saved in a user choice of a document style container using an APL component file or a record-oriented database such as Microsoft Access or SQL Server. Okay. The next thing we'll look at are the reports that are generated. This application's GUI is entirely based on Apl+Win forms and controls. No modifications to the application's user interface were necessary when converting this application to Apl64. The calculations are performed after the user selects the desired output reports. It's just a warning message because we edited some screens. Okay, these are all of the reports that are available, and those were pre-selected. This application separates all calculations from user input. Calculations are array-based using the end user provided input information. No modifications to the APL-based calculations were necessary when converting to Apl64. The output reports for the application are created using the APL-based component, which generates PDF format documents. Again, no modifications to this component was necessary. So now we'll view that. And it's creating the PDF document, and that will open up in the browser. Okay. Minimize that. Not what I wanted to do. Okay. So that is basically the demonstration of the Pendius application. Okay, now we're going to convert the Apl+Win Workspace to an Apl64 workspace. So I will start the Apl64 developer version. And I'm going to Xload workspace, the Pendius workspace. This is okay. So that's been loaded in. I chose to use to Xload it because we wanted to prevent the running of the quad-LX function. I know that this workspace does have a quad-LX, and this workspace also has two functions. Apl+Win format workspaces may be loaded or copied into Apl64. Apl64 does not support saving workspaces in Apl+Win format. And a suspended state indicator in an Apl+Win workspace is not preserved when the workspace is loaded into Apl64. In this application system, the workspace contains only two functions. Okay, it's the APL path and Pendius, which is what the quad-LX is. Okay. In this application, because all other APL programmer-defined functions are stored and accessed using APL packages in APL component files. You can see in the tools folder in the UCMD util workspace for details of the package functions. Okay, so at this point, you could either just save this workspace as an Apl64 workspace, or you can search through the functions in this workspace or any other workspace or any of your files, application files, to see if you're using any deprecated features. I happen to know that this particular function, APL path, will crash if we convert it and start up the Pendius application. So because of that, because it uses quad W call, get module handle, and quad module and get module file name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up APL path, and we're going to make that change now. Some of the other things that have been deprecated that you want to be aware of will be any references to quad call. You'll have to replace it with some applicable or an appropriate system function. You could use quad where, quad ss to mat. You'll also have to replace any references to the quad that we caption property. You'll want to replace that with quad dev cap, and the same for the main Apl64 window handle. We'll have to reference the 9 disclose of the quad sys in it. So okay, let's look at the change that we're going to make to APL path so that it'll operate properly in the Pendius application. I have a snippet of code. We're going to use the quad exe path because as this function is called, it's called APL path, and that's what it returns. Okay. And now we can save this as an Apl64 workspace. And you'll notice that the extension now is WS64. Okay. Oops, sorry, it already existed. I forgot. I have practiced this so many times. Sorry about that. I'm going to delete it. We'll do it. We'll save it again. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we can start up the application. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about the configuration file. All right, I'll bring in this up. Oh, shoot, I forgot about the Quad sorry. Not what I meant to do. Okay. All right, so if you have Apl+Win configuration file that you want to convert to an Apl64 configuration file, you'll open up Options and the Apl+Win configuration conversion submenu. And here you have several options. You can select all of these elements, and you can convert these to an APL configuration element. Depending on the element selected for conversion, the current Apl64 developer version instance may be ended so that the converted configuration elements can be applied to the next Apl64 developer version instance. Virtually all parameter values in the Apl64 configuration file pertain to the Apl64 developer version, so they're not necessary for this runtime application. An Apl64 configuration file for a runtime application might be appropriate if the Apl64 runtime application uses these Apl64 features and elects not to use command line parameters for quad CSE, libraries, splash image, quad path case, and host error mappings. The APL configuration file should not be used to contain application-specific values. If necessary, store application-specific values in a separate file, which can be in any format, XML format, or APL component file format. In this application, application-specific information was stored in the Apl+Win any format configuration file. After converting the Apl+Win configuration file to an Apl64 configuration file, it was determined that the application did not need an Apl64 configuration file. It was also decided to use the remnant of the Apl+Win any format file to store the application-specific information in Apl64. Okay. The other things you may want to consider when you're converting an Apl+Win application Apl64, you'll want to, if you have any ActiveX usage of APL draw and APL grid, you may need to update the registration for those. Since this application targets the Windows desktop, all Quad-WE, GUI, and ActiveX features of Apl+Win are available in Apl64. In this application, several Microsoft-provided ActiveX components were used to access XML format files and display data in grid format. These required no updates or modifications, but they could be replaced with Apl64 features if desired. Now we'll start the Pendis application in Apl64. We have a shortcut for that. And we have the splash screen and fingers crossed. Here we go. Great. Okay. So you can see it's the GUI is the same as it was in the Apl+Win version. I'm going to go through the same steps. I'll bring in the same test plan. And you may notice it may be, the performance time may be a little different. As you can see, for greater security, the .NET applications run in an environment which is isolated from the underlying Windows operating system. The first time a newly installed .NET application is used, this special .NET environment is created for the application. This makes the initial use of the application slower than all subsequent uses. For this specific application, the first use took 40 seconds, and subsequent uses of the application took 7 seconds. I'm going to bring that same data set in again, and it should be a lot faster than the first time in. There we go. Okay, we'll look at all of the, we'll look at the plan designs. We'll go through everything as we did previously in the Apl+Win demonstration. Okay, this looks fine. I'll go into the census data. Okay, different tabs. You can see the GUI is working as it did before. And now we'll go to the reports and we'll generate a report. So the calculations are being run. And it's performing just as fast as it did in Apl+Win. Okay, and here comes the report. Okay. Okay, after performing quality controlled testing of the converted application, the application can be profiled using the Apl64 system function quad profile. The information obtained by using quad profile can identify application-specific performance issues or processes which can benefit from new Apl64 features. Calculation performance in Apl+Win and Apl64 are similar for small arrays, but for large arrays, Apl64 performance is often better than Apl+Win. For this specific application, some future design changes could benefit performance, such as increase the array size when processing groups of plan participants, or replace the Microsoft ActiveX component with the Apl64 Quad XML system function. If you would like more information on using quad profile, that's available under Help, Developer Version GUI using quad profile. There will also be a Teams meeting for the users in a couple of weeks that will go into that in more detail. We encourage you to tell us about your observations and suggestions to improve your application and your experience with Apl64, as this will benefit you and other APL programmers. You can send your reports to support@apl2000.com. When this specific application was converted to Apl64, a potential performance issue with epsilon for scalar character arguments was reported. Reporting this issue enabled the Apl64 development team to make an improvement in the Apl64 epsilon function. In Apl64, an application targeting the Windows desktop is deployed using the Apl64 Windows Runtime Executable, WRE technology. An Apl64 WRE is a runtime version of Apl64, which is exclusively designed for Windows desktop applications. An Apl64 WRE includes all the Apl64 functionality, including Quad W GUI, ActiveX, and Quad W call. An Apl64 WRE can contain multiple workspaces and files. An Apl64 WRE must have a main workspace with a Quad LX function, which includes a Quad W form with a wait event. An Apl64 WRE is a self-contained application which presents a Windows desktop GUI and processes user-provided information using APL functions. In a few weeks, we will host additional team sessions where we will focus exclusively on some of the topics introduced here, such as how to use the system function Quad Profile, and another will highlight how to create a Windows Runtime Executable, the WRE. Additionally, you can read all about these topics and more from the Help menu and the developer version GUI. So this concludes our demonstration of converting an Apl+Win Workspace to Apl64. So I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions or comments, I'll take them now.